You are listening to the Final Say Radio Show, a Rappaport media production, with your host Brett Rappaport and co-host John Rappaport.
We have our Congressman, Congressman Phil Roe from the great state of Tennessee. He's with us now, so I'll bring him right into the conversation. Congressman, it's great to speak with you. How are you?
No, I'm doing great, Brett. Thanks. And before I forget today, congratulations. You've got a big day coming up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And yes, I do.
Wait a minute, you paused about that. Have you forgotten about it?
No. How could I forget? No, I'm very excited, and let me just say this. I'm a very lucky guy because this is unfortunately my second go-around, but fortunately it is because I found myself a wonderful person, a wonderful woman, and truly my best friend, and I'm excited about what's going to happen going forward. So this is a very good thing. So, and
well, I'm happy for you, Brett. I really am. I know it's a big day, and just wanted to make. I thought you for a moment there. I thought you forgot what was going to happen here rather soon. I think.
Now we're going to have it's an interesting weekend because tonight I have to get my last meal in just after the show before I have to fast for Yom Kippur, and I'll be in services. And then my cousin's a rabbi, and he's flying up just after his services down in Florida, so I'll go pick him up from the airport tomorrow evening, and then, of course, we'll have the wedding on Sunday. So it's all good, but it's going to be a very, very busy weekend.
Very busy weekend, and we'll be thinking about you, Brett, and just think the world of you, and glad this is a great day in your life.
Well, thank you again, and it means a lot coming from you as well. So, Congressman, there are so many things to discuss. We haven't had the opportunity to. I know you've been busy back in the district, and of course, the second you get back to Washington, there's so much going on. I know you've been incredibly busy. If we could spend a few minutes, just a couple comments on Syria, your thoughts, and what you feel may happen at this point going forward, we'd appreciate that.
Okay, Brett, let me set this up for our audience a little bit. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran. My service was just a little south, 11 miles south of the DMZ in Korea, 1973 and 74. I'm going to a high school reunion this year, and there are some friends that won't be coming to the high school reunion because they died in Vietnam. So we have to expend our treasure very carefully. As a commander-in-chief, I think it has to be measured and thought out. We are still the only world power out there, and Russia sees themselves as that they're not. I've been to Afghanistan twice, I've been to Israel, been to Kuwait, I've been to the Middle East several times. And I looked at this, and Brett, I through my August break, when I was home, I did numerous towns. I did over 60 events, and all the discussion until Syria came up was on health care, believe it or not. It wasn't on immigration, but it was on health care. But this really took the oxygen out of the room, and I was surprised. I live in a very conservative district. Mitt Romney got 73% of the vote in my district. That lets you know how conservative it is. And these were liberals and conservatives and Democrats and Republicans and apolitical people. I did 2 town halls, and the last week I was home, and I had one hand that showed up for any military intervention in Syria. And I told the group this, the folks when I was home talking to the crowds, I said, look, I have to have 3 questions answered for myself. And this just being an old guy, I was in the Army years ago. Said, number 1, is the security of the United States involved? Number 2, what do you expect to accomplish in this mission? And number 3, how do you extricate yourself from that? When do you declare victory and have it over with? Now, I think the president weakened himself by reading his hand ahead of time without thinking. You need to think as a world leader 2, 3, 4 moves down the chessboard. You can't just think I'm going to say this and then what am I going to do? You already have to have a plan in place if I make a statement about a red line. And clearly, Brett, the red line has got to be drawn at the border of Israel. I've had a wonderful visit there a couple of 3 years ago. The red line has to be there. We cannot allow that war to spill over into the state of Israel, the only functioning democracy in the Middle East. and they are truly our only ally there. So I think that's where you draw a red line and make it very clear what you will and won't do. But presidents can't say we're going to do certain things. President Obama has said a lot of things here in this country that he never did, and he wasn't held accountable. But this is a statement that affected the entire world, and for the first time, he really was held accountable for his statements. I don't know how where you guys are in New Jersey and New York area, what the feeling is, but certainly the feeling here, everywhere I've traveled, and I went to several congressional districts during the break, it was exactly the same. And I think the American people are war-weary. I think they, look, as a father and a grandfather, does my heart ache for innocents being killed? Absolutely. And it should never happen. But I don't know what he's planning to do. And I went to the briefing Monday with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Secretary Hagel and Kerry, Susan Rice, and Mr. Clapper, John Clapper. So they had the A-team there for us, and I went there with an open mind. So I'm going to listen to their case that's being made. I think that's only fair that I do that. And listen to the case being made and see if it makes sense to me. When I walked out, it did not, and I don't think they've made the case to the American people.
No, those are all good points. I just wanted to say this. John and I are going to Israel at the end of this month, and we'll be in Israel and Jordan for 2 weeks. And so we're excited to be going, but we certainly hope that the situation doesn't get any worse, because you don't want to be in the middle of where you really don't want to be at the time, right?
Well, but I'm sort of put that in God's hands, and God will take care of you.
Well, he's done a good job so far, so thank you. Our thoughts, and I think John and I would agree on this, and believe it or not, he's making a run to the airport for me, so it's just I'm going solo for now. But we both agree with the sentiment that Americans are definitely war-weary. I think we spent entirely too long in Iraq and in Afghanistan just for the fact that it seemed like we really had no clear vision or mission for the last years we were there. And there's plenty of blame to be spread around, and so we don't have to go there right now.
Right.
But the point is, we're definitely weary. We spent a lot of money. We lost a lot of men and women. We had a lot of people come home with injuries and psychological issues. And we have a lot of equipment that's worn down. And then we've gone through this whole cycle of sequestration, budget issues, record-breaking deficits each year. And so the American people are also concerned with how are we going to pay for this and the other things. And then there's questions such as, well, if you do go into Syria, what happens next? What will the response be? Who will the response come from? And then here's something I'd like to throw out there. Syria hasn't attacked the United States. We were attacked in Benghazi, which was Libya. We've been attacked elsewhere, but I don't recall Syria attacking us. Yet the country of Iran is the one who's been pursuing a nuclear program and is constantly talking about little Satan and big Satan, meaning the United States and Israel. So I just don't understand the policy, really.
Well, Brett, I think you're right. And I think a leader, and this requires a lot of good people around you to help you think when you get out and make the statement. You are the leader of the most powerful country in the world if you're the President of the United States, and you have to think and look. You don't make statements that you're not going to back up, because then you do lose face, and then you're standing out there with you diminish the office of the presidency for the next person and weaken it, and then you're sitting out there hoping the Russians bail you out. We've gotten in a situation where we have to go into space with the Russians. It's really sort of shameful that we do, but I'm always, look, if it's me for a negotiated settlement, a little loss of face and not loss of life, I'll take the loss of face every time over the loss of life. But this is a serious job the president has, Brett, and that, as I said, you need to be thinking about move 3 and 4, not just saying something and then, well, what am I going to do?
Right, yes, and I agree with you 100%. I can't say where I was, but I was in D.C. 2 weeks ago at a private meeting, and I actually made the comment before any of this had really unfolded that if it were me, I would have private discussions with the Russians to see if there were any way that they could work to try to secure the chemical weapons, because they probably have a better chance of doing so than we did. And I saw some pretty surprised faces in the room, and then literally 2 or 3 days later, you see what happened. I was a little surprised, because I said that because it's sometimes you just try to think outside the box. And but in this case, I don't want to give the president a hard time because the Russians may become involved, because really, when it comes to these international affairs, you really want to just look for ways that you could deal with it where people just aren't getting hurt. Like you said, we may lose some face in this one, and we certainly know that we have a president that backed us into a corner with his red line statement. But at the end of the day, do we want to lose American lives for something that many Americans really don't truly believe we should be involved in right now?
I think overwhelmingly no. I mean, we've done online polls, and those are, of course, are not scientific polls. I understand that, but that they certainly it's in my district. It's in the high 80s not do anything, and it's in single digits, and maybe 5 or 6% want to involve. And I think mainly that is the humanitarian part. It tugs at your heartstrings when you see the photos and pictures that we've seen. I certainly get that, and I agree with you, Brett. I think reaching out to the country that has the most influence on Syria is Russia, and to reach out to them makes sense. And if it works, if we can diffuse this issue and not go to war, and I think we benefit. And if we do anything in the region, I've said this in the beginning, and maybe this is just my old medical corps coming out in me from years ago, is that the one thing that we're really good at a lot of things, but we're really good at humanitarian aid. There's no country in the world even close that can roll out, let's say, into a small country like Jordan with, 6 million people, maybe the size of Tennessee, with I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of refugees, or into Turkey. We can roll in there and we can feed and give medical attention to those folks and give them a completely different opinion of the United States of America. And I think the concern that we have is by arming whoever you're arming, I'm not sure who that is, the minute that Assad is gone, they'll turn those weapons on Israel and us. I absolutely believe that. I think that my folks here tell me that all the time, and I believe them.
That's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that one, because we actually said this yesterday. What we need to do, and we really need to get the Russians on board with this, and hopefully the Chinese and some of the other major arms players. It's time to disarm let's just call them lunatics around the world. We have too many weapons floating around the world. I'm not talking about our handguns and our hunting guns. We're talking about serious weapons that kill a lot of people around the world. And the last thing we need to do is ship more to Syria, ship more into the Middle East and North Africa. We need to start removing the arms from these countries and start creating economic opportunity and better education, so these regions could really start, for lack of a better word, transforming into civil societies.
Well, look at what Korea did. Korea dug itself out. It was leveled in 1950 to 1953. I mean, all the infrastructure, everything in that continent was leveled. We drew a line across the 38th parallel. We had an army, the 8th Army and the 2nd United States Infantry Division were just south of the DMZ. Now the 2nd ID is there to maintain the peace. And what did that country do? They rebuilt they educated their populace. They're highly educated. I've been through their schools there and revisited for the first time in almost 40 years. Last year I went back to that country. Could not believe what I saw. 1960, they had the same economic output as Afghanistan today, the 8th, 9th largest economy in the world. They did exactly what you said through peace. And where you educate and you grow your economy and you improve the livelihood of every citizen in your country. You're spot on, absolutely right.
Yeah, and that should be not just the U.S. policy. Other countries should be signing on to this policy to just make the world a better place. Now, I know we only have a few minutes left, and I always want to give you the opportunity because it is, of course, an extremely important topic. And I know we're all right back to the same arguments on healthcare. And there are two angles here. One is we're supposed to be, I believe it's October 1st, it's supposed to be officially there or implemented. And then you have a lot of different businesses. You have now unions that are upset. And, we're talking about the mandates and some of the other penalties and things of that nature. What's going to happen right now? Are we going to include these discussions with the debt ceiling and budget discussions? Are we going to get anywhere?
Well, Brett, I just got through speaking at a Kiwanis Club, and guess what? Healthcare was the number one topic when I opened it up for questions. And yes, the answer to your question is yes. We're going to look at the CR, the continuing resolution to run the country. And the sad part is I've been a congressman. This is my 5th year. We have not passed a budget on regular order, meaning it went to the Senate, to conference, and to the president since I have been a congressman. That's absurd, and we're running, which is a terrible way to run the country on a continuing resolution. So either the continuing resolution and or the debt ceiling vote, and we can have that vote now. You don't have to wait till you hit it to have it. Is to look at delaying the Affordable Care Act for a year and tying that to the debt ceiling vote and the sequester, delaying the sequester for a year. So if you want a year's debt ceiling increase, then fine, we can do that. But if we delay the Affordable Care Act, and why would you want to do that? Well, you wouldn't want to do it because, as you pointed out, it is not ready for prime time. 2 weeks from now, I cannot even tell my own office staff what their insurance premiums are going to be. We don't have a clue. In the state of Tennessee, we don't have a clue what those premiums are going to be. We know they're going to be higher by 40 to 70%, but we don't know exactly what they're going to do to me. And that's what people want to know. It's all this uncertainty. And since I've been on your show, 2 weeks ago, I was in Lexington, Kentucky, holding a field hearing on the I chair the Health, Employment, Labor, and Pension Subcommittee of my committee, and it was about the effects of this on business. And just business after business came up, and these are small businesses, not large businesses with HR departments, but small businesses under 100 employees. They weren't hiring. They were looking at ways to cut their costs, and here they are 90 days to next year's budget, and they don't have a clue what their costs are going to be. They can't factor it in. That's why they're not hiring. Why would you can't hire anybody if you don't know what your costs are going to be, if you're not going to have the money to pay them. And next Wednesday, I hope we have a chance to do this again on your show, but the Republican Study Committee, Steve Scalise is the chairman, as you know, and from Louisiana, and I drew the short straw one day, and he said, well, you put a committee together to do a rewrite, a replacement bill for the Affordable Care Act. And I said, sure. So put a great committee together. It's in legislative language. It's less than 200 pages long. It empowers patients and doctors back again, puts them in charge instead of government bureaucrats and insurance companies. And we've got a really, really slimmed-down bill that will help lower costs and increase access. And so I hope sometime we have a chance to talk about it. We're going to drop it next Wednesday.
Oh, well, absolutely we will. And it's funny you just brought that up because the media likes to spin things that aren't necessarily the case. And I physically witnessed not just you but other members of the Republican Congress who have proposed either large bills or just single issues of the health care bills to try to do things that would actually be beneficial to our healthcare system and to the patient-doctor relationship. But overall, I think the mainstream media is presenting it as if the Republicans haven't had any ideas. And I just want to be very clear that that's absolutely not the case. I think there are a ton of doctors who are members of Republican members of Congress who've worked very hard on this issue, and I will certainly read that bill, every last word of it, and I will certainly discuss it with you and other members and help promote it as much as we can.
It's imperfect, as any bill would be, and it's not probably what a lot of people would want. It's not this 2,700-page monstrosity that here we are 2 weeks from rollout, nobody knows what it's going to be. It's very easy to understand. So I said, it takes the uncertainty out and puts docs and patients back in charge. And Dr. Tom Price is on the committee, Dr. John Fleming. We had nurses on there, Marsha Blackburn, others. It's a great committee. They did. Dr. Paul Gosar from Arizona, a dentist, was on there. We had a very good, diverse group with the Congress, and you're absolutely correct. Dr. Price has got a bill that's out there. There are many of them that are out there, but they've gotten shouted down, or the media just doesn't want to hear about it, the mainstream media. It doesn't meet their theme.
And I don't exactly know what they're looking for because every day I open up my Wall Street Journal, I see another article about companies converting full-time employees to part-time, or part-time jobs now eliminating benefits because of Obamacare. And that just says it all.
Brett, it's worse than that. In Lee County, Virginia, a little county just across the state line from me, their hospital is closing the 1st of October. And the hospital system that operates them is in my district in Kingsport, Tennessee. And the people operating that hospital specifically said the payments that are occurring and the conditions of the Affordable Care Act were a major contributor, and the downturn in the economy. And guess what happened in Southwest Virginia with all the rules and regulations with coal? It killed the jobs they had. So you had a double whammy for them. You had the decreased payments through the Affordable Care Act to the hospital system, the providers, and then you had basically a wasteland up in Southwest Virginia where the coal industry has just been decimated.
Yeah, it's amazing. We can't even get into coal and the EPA. That's a whole other day's topic. Anyway, Congressman, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and I want to thank you for the good job that you're doing back in your district and down there in Washington, D.C. I look forward to reviewing and reading through the bill you guys are putting forth. And John gives his regards, by the way. But John and I are going to be back down in D.C. I think it's around the 26th, and we'll certainly be more than happy to drop off our remarks and come visit you guys.
Well, thanks, Brett. God bless you and your new wife, and you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much. And if you could please provide your website so our listeners and everyone who supports you could go check out what you're working on.
Thanks. It's www.roe.house.gov. Pretty simple.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much, and good luck, and God bless.
Thanks.
All right, take care. Again, that's Congressman Phil Roe from the great state of Tennessee, and he's done just a magnificent job since he's almost 5 full years in Congress now, working tirelessly to fix what Obamacare is really broken, and they've done a great job there. So again, thank you.